Hi, everyone. My name is Philippa Hughes, and I am the director of Curiosity Connects Us, plus Looking for America. It's a project in which we talk to Americans around the country, asking them, what does it mean to be American? And recently, we teamed up with the Friedrich Ebert Foundation to talk to people more on the left. Normally, we have bipartisan conversations, but we thought it'd be interesting for this series of conversations to talk to people who lean left. And we thought we'd talk to people specifically in swing states, especially because the election is coming up and it's a big one. And so want to hear what you all are thinking, and kind of hear from real Americans, not politicians, not voices filtered through media. Like, let's talk to real Americans, whatever that means. Maybe we can talk about what it means to be a real American too. So I've got two awesome women with me today from Minnesota, and I'm just excited to introduce them to you, and also to hear, what's happening in Minnesota, which is turning into kind of a battleground state. Natalie, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your organization? I'm really keen to tell people about the organization you run.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on today. My name is Natalie Ringsmuth, and I am the executive director of a nonprofit in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is in the central part of the state. It's called Unite Cloud. You can find us at unitecloud.org.
Christine, can you tell us more about yourself?
Well, my name's Christine Ver Ploeg. I am a retiree. I'm a lawyer. I started out as a civil rights attorney. Then moved into being a law professor. I'm now retired from academia, but I'm continuing a long career as a labor arbitrator. And so I preside over labor management disputes.
Natalie, could you describe a little bit more about what central Minnesota is like, or could you all talk about the differences, just for our audience to understand what Minnesota, like the lay of the land?
Yeah, our county went 68% for our current president, for President Trump. And so, organizing in this space is much different than, of course, organizing in a place that, went majority for Hillary in 2016. And, this is battleground, like you're talking about. And President Trump just visited Bemidji, which is just north of us, this week. And so, and what you saw him say there is what a lot of people in our community say. He spent the first 20 minutes disparaging all Somalis. Every single one of my neighbors who's Somali, he disparaged them simply based on their ethnicity and probably as well their religion. And then he went after Ilhan Omar, baseless rumors attacking her. It's just, you can see me probably getting angry just talking about it.
But angry.
Yes. Yeah. So, there's an article that came out that said, that was actually a worldwide article, and a lot of my friends who are Somali, who are organizers in Minnesota, were quoted in it, like Jailani Hussein from CARE Minnesota, and he said, they said, this is a do or die election. Literally, my life is on the line because my family has already not been able to come here because of the Muslim ban. What will happen in the next 4 years if this is what's going on? So what we see in central Minnesota is a parrot of exactly what President Trump says happening here in our community. So we have a lot of public harassment of our Somali neighbors, our neighbors of color, our LGBTQ plus neighbors, something we're dealing with actually here, have been dealing with for 5 years at our organization. But, public harassment, it seems to me, it looks to me a lot like when Ruby Bridges was walking into the school for the first time.
Right.
That's what it looks like to be a Muslim woman wearing a hijab walking down the street in St. Cloud. And you'll get, N-word tossed out at you. You'll go back to your country. Same thing with our Hispanic neighbors, and this is not something that a lot of people in central Minnesota are willing to admit. But I think that's the main thing here, is that there's continuous microaggressions and even macro, to the point of a guy choking a cab driver because he perceived him to be Muslim while he's going down the street at 60 miles an hour. So, you know, they're mostly micro, but also macro as well. That's
well, you know, and I think to summarize Minnesota, I would say urban versus rural, you know, is the great divide. And it happens to be somewhat geographic because most of the rural is north of the Twin Cities. Well, I'd say Duluth even is probably Trump territory. Would you? Yeah.
Yeah, anything, I mean, we mostly organize in north and central Minnesota. And yeah, even the further north you get, it maybe is even worse than St. Cloud.
Well, and we have a cabin in northern Wisconsin. And boy, you see absolutely the same thing there.
Yep.
You've got Milwaukee and Madison as, you know, urban right or urban lefties. But, you know, in northern rural Wisconsin, it's all Trump signs.
Right.
And no masks. No masks.
And no masks. Yeah. Yep.
So I feel like we can't not talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She died last Friday, and you know, I live in Washington, D.C., and I feel very lucky that, you know, as soon as I heard she died, like my boyfriend and I walked right down to the Supreme Court and were able to sit there and vigil with hundreds, maybe 1,000 people. It was so amazing, and we went back again, and you know, so after we sort of mourned and got, you know, felt like we got that out of our system a little bit, even though I'm still very sad. Now it's like, it's a fight, like it's on now. You know, what do you think?
Well, what do I think? My first thought was, wow, get out there in the trenches and fight the good fight, and, you know, go down in flames if you have to, but never give an inch. The last couple of days, I really find myself in a dilemma because there appear to be so many people who voted for Trump and who care, but who are now truly despising the man he is. But they're still, you know, first and foremost, all about the Supreme Court, which is to say all about abortion. Abortion kind of fell off the front pages, but it is still driving a huge portion of the electorate. Well, to double back, if there is not a nominee confirmed before the election, and one can imagine a scenario where Trump is dragging his heels to delay it, come the election, there are those who say, I hate the man, but that Supreme Court seat is still in limbo, so I have to vote for him to nail that one down. You know, so in that sense, one might want to see it nailed down. So those would then vote their personal convictions, which would be not Trump, get Biden in. There might be some future openings, or expand the court. So there I find myself in a real muddle.
Yeah, I have, that describes my family. A lot of my family is folks who will vote for Trump again this time, and it will be solely because of the abortion issue. And that's how I was raised, really, that you were Republican because you were Christian, because you don't kill babies. So very black and white, you know, there's no gray area. We're not talking about policies, healthcare, anything like that. We're just talking about babies, and not babies outside of the womb, but babies only inside of the womb. So that's how I was raised, and it's taken me a long time to, it was actually only just recently that I was able to say I'm pro-choice. And I had to figure that out when I was running for my school board seat, because there was an organization in Minnesota that I wanted to get their endorsement, but in order to do that, I had to explain why I was pro-choice. So I had some really amazing friends that sat with me and were my pro-choice friends, and explained how they got there as well and why they were. And so after a lot of thinking and meditating, I realized that that's really where I'm landing now. And so that's hard. That's hard for my family, and it's hard for a lot of people in my faith to understand that. I grew up very conservative Christian. So, but about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, to understand what was happening in 1970 versus now because of what she's done. I was born in 79, and so it really, wasn't very long ago that she made these changes, and to understand that you couldn't be on the mortgage with your husband. Good night. I mean, like that's crazy talk to me, but that's the reality. And then just like another kind of kick in the teeth, if you will, was understanding that she is the first woman to lie in state in the Capitol.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, this is why I'm experiencing so many spaces in central Minnesota where I'm the only woman, and I have to name that as a problem. So much less, I'm not a woman of color, so much less if you're a woman of color in a space, or a person of color in general. But, that just goes to show you that we're not so progressive as a country like we sometimes tend to think we are.